Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see your faces. I think we'll wait a few moments to let people drift in. The more the merrier of you that have your cameras on, the more we'll feel like we're a living, breathing community. Okay. I think we'll just take a little bit of time to say hello. So you can hear a few voices. Feel free to say where you're calling in from. And feel free to unmute at your leisure.
Keith from Berkeley.
Hey, Keith. Glad you're here.
Laura from Maryland.
Jill from Fish Creek.
Hi, Laura and Jill, simultaneously.
Charlie in Rockport.
Hey, Charlie in Maine.
Leith from Edmonton.
Hi, Leith.
Frank, San Francisco.
Hey,
Melinda,
Frank.
San Francisco.
Hi, Melinda. Glad you're here.
Rebecca, San Francisco.
Hi, Rebecca.
Howie.
Hi, Seema.
Grant, Red Deer, Alberta.
Hi, Grant. Glad you're here.
Eve, San Francisco.
Lucy's from San Francisco.
Up too fast, Lee, Eve, and
Lucy.
Lucy. Lucy, there were two quickies.
Angela, San Francisco.
Hi, Angela.
Greg, San Francisco.
Great. We're doing great with the San Francisco tonight.
Pat from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Hi, Pat. Always a pleasure.
Linda from Regina, Saskatchewan as well.
Hi, Linda.
Good evening.
Regina is holding us up tonight. They feel sorry for us here in the States. Not really. They're probably a bit, anyway, I won't make any speculation. I'll just trust that we are learning how to find our balance on both sides of the border. And if you're not, that's what this is for. It's our weekly, at least, drop in to hopefully a little bit more sanity. There's Jerry from Nashville. Welcome.
Big love.
Big love right back at you. Anyway, glad to hear your voices, glad to see you, glad to know that we can support each other, finding a little sanity. Reminding ourselves that sanity is inherent in our nature, includes wisdom, love, clarity, simplicity, all those things that we return to when our attention is recollected in the simple unfolding of the present moment. And we realize that that is this present moment, in spite of the wonder at being able to think about past and future and create worlds in our mind. In spite of that, our reality is really just our sense experiences in this moment. Everything else is conceptual, narrative, imaginary. So none of us has to travel to find sanity. what was it? One of the great Sufi masters says, I was in need of a great pilgrimage, and so I sat still for 3 days. I sat. We just do it for 45 minutes and then hang out together, reorienting ourselves to real time, because that's where we find our innate sanity. And we're supported by the simple and ultimate fact that we are aware, that we're conscious. Consciousness is both miraculous, mysterious, but also stabilizing when we become aware of that simple fact that we are aware. And we also become aware that without this body, we would not be able to be aware. And so we celebrate both this body, even though it's so challenging to be in a body. We all know it from direct experience. But in the case of meditation, it's our body that anchors us to the living present. So we bring our attention together with our bodies, call it harmonizing, making one mind and body, not two. And we let our eyes close softly so that we move beyond the idea of our body or the image of our body to the felt experience. We feel the shape and the form. We feel the aliveness, vibration. We feel just sensation, those little points of feeling that light up or sparkle like stars in an evening sky. So moving beyond the idea of body to that felt experience that is moving, changing, dynamic. And as our mind is filled with the sensations of our body and our body is animated by our attention, there's a calming that is just the natural byproduct. There's a steadying, there's a stilling. And with this stilling creates a relief, not relief meaning, well, there are many kinds of relief, but the relief meaning it becomes much more clear that our body is breathing. And we feel and enjoy the body's experience of its own life breath. And we feel the breath through its duration, coming in and going out, just like waves. And just as we don't try to interfere with the waves in the ocean, we don't try to interfere with the waves of the breath. We let them come, we let them go, short, long, rough, smooth, deep, shallow. And again, the byproduct is a calming, a calm abiding. Not because we tried to calm ourselves or still ourselves or settle ourselves. This is just what happens when our attention is in the same place as our body and breath. So settle into this intimate, direct experience of life right where it touches us. And when we're in the neighborhood of reality, we'll also notice the unbidden arising of a whole range of sensations that light up moods and thoughts, and we welcome them all as changing conditions, coming and going, and we rest in a non-interfering, non-judgmental awareness that's imbued with kindness and interest, knowing just this moment, just this breath, body, or whatever sense experience comes. And since everything is self-liberating or changing, there's nothing to do about what presents itself, nothing to undo. We just simply notice. And see how life unfolds. Just this moment. Just what's unfolding. Just this breath as our primary support. Our body as our anchor to the living present. Just a reminder that when you realize that you've been absorbed in a thought bubble, a thought world, this is a sign that mindfulness has rearisen, come back online. So appreciate that sense of being able to see now with clear comprehension what's happening. No longer absorbed. In support of remaining awake, aware, embodied, find your body, find your breath. Just being aware, supported by the body, supported by breath. Just this moment. Let sounds come and go. Without bothering them with your reactivity. Just being aware of hearing. And while you're hearing, you may notice the sound of silence. And with the sound of silence, steady your attention. All we adjust is the quality of our attention, steady, kind, interested, relaxed. And just welcome whatever's there. Pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences. Everything equal in the light of awareness. Hmm. Deep pleasure to sit with all of you. Wanted to encourage you to very deliberately or slowly look around your own temple, perhaps affected a little bit by you having spent the last 45 minutes sitting. Your short pilgrimage. And yet things often look different. Before we get too far from the sit, wondered whether there are any questions that came up from your practice or anything that was said, any comments, descriptions, topics, and know that whatever your particular concern, question, comment, description will likely be of some use to someone else. Stephen, please feel free to unmute, and thanks for breaking the ice.
Can you hear me now? Thank you, Chloe.
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. In every now and then I get intrusive thoughts, and about 2 days ago I got hit with a really low level of them, and they're really the opposite of who I am. But they're really taboo society-wise, or even marriage-wise, or anywhere-wise, and I just don't want them. But I'm not. I can't get rid of them sometimes. Or I went to the beach yesterday and I screamed on the beach, and then I went to the chiropractor, tried to get it out, and I don't know where they come from, but they're troubling. And
Thank you.
they're troubling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, having spent a lot of time in silence, doing a lot of practice, I was visited by things that felt completely not what I would call myself: voices, tongues, views, aggression, all kinds of things that I think our consciousness, as it opens, it includes everything. And so to expect anything can happen at any time within this mind stream. And most important is that we see that it comes unbidden. So in that way, it's selfless. It's not, there's no one in there saying, little Steve saying, now think this. They come. And it can be a whole range of things. And some of them are unpleasant. We tend to not like the ones that are unpleasant, or the ones that seem outside of how we want to identify ourselves or something. But even if they're unpleasant, even if they're outside of what we want to identify with, they're just thoughts. And as thoughts, from a meditative point of view, we see that they come and they go. And so they can't define you. They're just thoughts. So the issue is not the thoughts. The issue is the way that you relate to the thoughts. Either you pushing them away. If you don't like them and you want them to go away, that is just like adding fuel to them. That's giving them a certain power. That's it's basically encouraging them. Anything you resist will persist. That's just how it works. So that's why meditative awareness says, it's okay that you're here. I'll accept you when you come, and I'll say goodbye to you when you go. And that to not wish to be rid of thoughts. One of the beautiful teachings, and I highly recommend you read this chapter in the classic book from Suzuki Roshi, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, where he said, thoughts are just waves of the mind. And if you're not bothered by the waves, they will quiet by themselves. But as long as you're bothered by the waves, they will torment you mercilessly. So we try not, so our mindfulness ultimately has the effect of removing the not liking and replacing it with acceptance of what's there. So as mindfulness grows, you'll see that the thoughts will just self-liberate anyway. You don't really need to do anything about them. But in the meantime, you want to incline as much as possible not to be bothered by them, because they're just thoughts. So good luck,
Thank you.
but don't try to get rid of them.
Thank you, Howie.
Anyone else? Lisa, please feel free.
Hi, Howard. You may have the same answer that you just gave, but I was going to ask how, if you had some advice for dealing with the judging mind. I felt in the last sit like sometimes a lot of judgment was coming up for myself, and then sometimes I'd notice it was a judgment of others.
In terms of thinking, just working with the thinking mind, it is the same response. But with the judging mind, and whenever there's a tendency toward it often reveals a kind of tendency toward ill will, toward aversion, and toward yourself, toward others. And ideally, if you can just see the judging mind judging, count them, have fun with them, see that they're not you, they don't define you, great. But if there's a certain persistence to them, then you can see, then sometimes we need a little antidote for ill will, which is loving kindness. So we want to just incline toward loving kindness in every possible way, so that just tends to replace. You can put the judging mind to good use and let it remind you of your inclination toward love. And then wish yourself well, wish whoever you're judgmental of well. And in that way, you're actually infusing your mind stream of something that will arise in future moments as more goodwill rather than ill will. But first and most important is the fact that you're noticing the judging mind. That's already a kind of freedom. So it's good that you're noticing it. So just try not to make any case against yourself around it. It's good news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mary, please feel free.
Hi, Howie. I think we're all in the same boat or something tonight. I was really grateful to be here, number one, because I was kind of getting a little angry about stuff going on, and it's very
I can't imagine what you're talking about.
very disturbing. And but I could tell I was really starting to physically experience this anger. I was really feeling, upset about a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff to be upset about, but I have to also take care of myself. And I was really grateful to be here tonight, number one. And I think what everyone was talking about was just what I needed to just realize, okay, those are thoughts and I can let them come up and I can let them go too. I don't have to hold on to them like this, and I really needed that tonight. I felt a little, usually I'm better at that, I felt really a little caught up in being upset about stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being the voice of many who are upset about, without naming the content tonight.
Right.
Although I do have to say that I was incredibly proud and impressed with someone who was quite upset, who spent who spent more than 24 hours speaking in front of the Senate. And
also Wisconsin. She won.
well, I didn't.
Oh,
I'm not
sorry.
getting into that, but more
Okay.
the fact that
Yes.
Cory
Yes.
Booker,
Yes, it was very moving. Yeah.
very moving, and
Yeah.
actually that action. What is it that there's a line from a wonderful teacher who used to be one of my mentors, Angelus Arian, who said, "Action absorbs anxiety," and his action was not only beneficial and perhaps to himself. He really choked up when he was loved up for what he did, but it was beneficial for others to have someone representing their voice. And so it's a beautiful thing. So
I really felt that a lot this week because I was feeling a little depressed for a couple of days, and I did go out and was in the protest, and I felt so much better afterwards because you have that solidarity with other people, and it's inspiring other people
yes.
that are
Yes.
So, but yes, kudos to him. There were some good things that happened today too, and I need to keep those in my mind also. Thank you.
But yeah, our practice is really about meeting the state that we're in. It's, I didn't want to interrupt too much during the sitting tonight, but sometimes there's an aim in our practice to get to the end of the sitting, or to make our mind calm, or get rid of those unwanted thoughts. And mindfulness just doesn't, our practice isn't really about that. It's really about creating the conditions to experience what it is that's going on in a balanced and non-reactive way, so that we can both learn from it, flow with it, let it teach us. I just said that, learn from it. But mindfulness, it just doesn't have the agenda of getting through something, of getting to any place. So, because just in the same way, I don't know about you, but in the same way that many people, and I don't know if this happens in this community while we're sitting, but I wonder how many are waiting for the gong to go off, waiting for the end of the sitting. That itself creates tension. And when we're waiting for the world to cooperate and show up in our image, that creates tension. And so the world is one way, but most of our stress is our reaction to it, is the way we're managing it, the way we're navigating it. And so our practice enters in to readjust not so much the world, but our relationship to it, so that we're not compounding it. And of course it's when things are hard to bear, it's hard to remember this, to be simple, and just to notice, oh, this is really hard to bear. This is painful. Feels like this. And not try to make something extra, or get rid of something, or get to the end of it, or figure it out. Just, this is what it feels like to be depressed. This is what it feels like to be angry. This is what it feels like to have a constant stream of judgments in the mind. Judging mind is like this. We're not used to being that non-interfering. So it's an acquired taste. Anyone else before I shift gears? Please feel free, don't hesitate.
Howie, I have a question.
Oh, please, Howie G, thank you for co-hosting tonight too. Appreciate
Sure,
it.
of course. if this is just too kind of heady, just say it's too heady, and then I'll just retract the question. But
It's too heady. No.
okay, bye.
No, please feel free.
So, it's, I get everything about getting it, falling into judgment and et cetera, self-judgment especially. But, this lately I feel like there's so many things to consider doing or not doing. It feels like action is a real option for, people who, for many of us
Yeah.
who have the opportunity and the ability to do good actions. But the question about judgment versus right action, I mean, how can I know what's your take on that? Because, I can just get into some spinning wheel about what's the right thing to do, especially when you have like liberal dilemmas, like, boycotting. I could boycott myself into starvation if I wanted to be, politically correct. I mean, there's got to be some middle ground. But, so I find myself doing a lot of judging and feeling less, less sort of, for lack of a better word, zen about, decision making and things like that, because I feel like now is a very important time to, do right action. So I don't, am I making myself clear? There's kind of a dilemma here in my mind, and I just wonder if
I'm not hearing the dilemma so much, except for different choices that you might have of how to navigate these times. And I don't think there is any objective answer. It's only an intuitive answer that comes from the quiet of your heart, and actually tracking in a very simple way your present experience, and knowing when there's confusion in the mind, and then seeing what happens to the confusion when it's met. And then when it comes to a question of what to do or not to do, just as I often say here, notice whether you're getting caught up in trying to figure it out. And then notice how your body feels when you're trying to figure it out. At least you can let it remind you to come back into your body. And what's needed usually at that time is to calm your body. And that just means that tension needs some attention. And that, because that's what's fueling the incessant figuring out mind, which brings the confusion and then not knowing what to do. And so it's usually a sign that we've become disembodied.
Yep, which is the whole brain thing that I mentioned at the beginning. I think I'm getting too cerebral about this stuff.
Yeah. So two things tend to be important for calming the mind and body is love, just really approaching yourself with real reverence and appreciation and kindness, and then also just feeling your body and noticing its state, because no present state can withstand the light of attention. It will change. And what seems to feed it is the incessant narrative about it. So
Thank you.
feel it. It's going to that putting your mind back in your body inevitably has a byproduct of more calm. But don't try to make it calm. And the other thing I would say for anyone, if you're doing the ping pong thing about what to do or what not, just do what you enjoy. Start with that. So, because doing what you enjoy tends to calm the mind and body. So make sure that you're gladdening your heart. Things that bring joy. It's one of the enlightenment factors. It's sometimes just what's needed. that reminds me, I'll do a little spiel on the enlightenment factors tonight because we can all manage those ourselves. Anyway, good luck. So I think my topic, what I was thinking about based on a short conversation I had with Mary Davis, our board president today, when we were scheduling the next half-day retreat, which will be, for any of you who are interested, will be online, and it will be entitled Inclining the Mind Toward Sanity. Inclining the Mind Toward Sanity. And I thought that I started to think about it before this evening and thought that I would do a little sneak preview or start to get my feet wet on the topic. And the first thing that I thought of was how each of us can incline toward sanity when we're feeling insane. One is to be honest with ourselves that we're feeling insane and create a little space to know what is feeling insane like. And already something in us will say, thank you for paying attention to me. Thank you for paying attention for a moment rather than trying too hard to be less sane. It's like trying to calm your mind. It just makes it agitated. It's like trying to get rid of those unwanted thoughts. It invites them. But to just notice, oh, this is what uninvited thoughts are like. This is what insanity feels like. Usually insanity, the feeling of feeling crazy is it's usually a view, it's a story, it's a built up narrative about momentary feelings of dukkha, of things that just feel unpleasant and really hard to be with. And so keeping it really simple, opening to dukkha. And so that gets us to the first direction in the regaining of our sanity is wise view. And wise view, is we call it right view or wise view, in the most immediate sense, is viewing the present state of our mind, not how we hope we will be, how we were yesterday, not comparing, evaluating, interpreting, but experiencing how we are. That's the simplest experience of wise view, a view without judgment, without interpretation. Just, oh, this state that's being experienced, if I drop below the story of it, it feels like this, and it's unpleasant. This is dukkha. Heart is tight, whatever it might be. But once it's brought into the light of awareness that has that quality of both interest, or curiosity, and there's mindfulness, and mindfulness is not judgmental. Mindfulness is just open. Already, whatever that present state is that is dropped below the story of it, it naturally becomes a little bit more workable. And there's sometimes even a little bit of happiness that can come from knowing that I can feel this, knowing that it can be accommodated, knowing that there is noticing. Sometimes that itself is a form of love. This kind, what one teacher called awareness is choiceless love. That the sense of actually loving what you're seeing, the fact that you're seeing, because you have absolutely no interest in it, in making it anything else in that moment. Just noticing. So this is wise view. But then there's the more philosophical wise view that can also at least help support us, our sanity, is that life has within it dukkha. It has within it things that are really hard. And whatever is happening right now is not an aberration. It's, even though compared to different phases of our world, it's worse than this, or things have never happened this way in our lifetimes in this. But dukkha is dukkha. I remember, and I've talked about this before on Tuesday night, I remember going to my Burmese teacher, U Pandita Sayadaw, and seeing how terrible it was at this moment in 2 months into a practice period, how terrible it was to have to feel my body in its present state. And I was feeling as one does if you sink in very deeply into a more microscopic experience of the body, you see that most of what we experience is unpleasant. And it's a certain kind of insight into dukkha. But my mind wasn't just seeing dukkha as dukkha, or the stress as stressful, but I was embellishing it with, this is really bad, or this is, I was compounding it by having a story about it. And the Sayadaw just looked at me and with a certain dismissal and said, just see dukkha as dukkha. Don't build a monument to the way things are right now. Just feel the dukkha. This is the first noble truth. This is what happens. And what compounds it is, as we've spoken about so many times, what adds mental suffering to the inherent stress of existence is that resistance to it, not wanting it to be that way. Before we can even work with it, we have to see that this is the way it is. So that's why in the second noble truth, the cause of suffering is wanting what's not there and not wanting what is there. That the antidote for that is to abandon that craving for it to be different. Long enough to feel what it's like to just meet dukkha as dukkha. There's often a cessation, not of the dukkha, not of the inherent stress that's part of our life, but there's a cessation of that reactive mind. And so each of us does have the capacity. What actually returns us to sanity is just opening to dukkha and experiencing taking enough responsibility to know for ourselves that we can experience some relief, some cessation of stress just by working with our own mind. And actually, if our own internal clinging and condemning and anger and frustration and judgment can be accommodated and worked with, it's a changing condition. It actually frees us up to hear what we can actually do for the world. What might make a difference. And I actually think it starts by just, of course this is my business, but it starts by working with our own mind. I still to this day, and I think till the day I stop sharing, I will still say that the most radical social action that you can engage in, not excluding other kinds of social action, but the most radical is working with your own reactivity. Because the world isn't making us reactive. It's the world's doing what it's doing, and our mind is not liking it. Some people are liking it, actually. So it's not inherent in what's going on that we are suffering. So I find it liberating or freeing to know that that I can rely a little bit more on. I can find some peace and well-being in other ways and in additional ways other than just going out and doing what Cory Booker did. I would, if you can find a way to channel your energy like he was able to do, marvelous, highly recommend it. Anything that you do that's with passion and interest and all those awakening factors present, it's a beautiful thing. But if you don't have that thing, bring that passion to your awakening. That's what the Buddha would recommend, is that we have to, real liberation is finding something within ourselves that is untouched, beyond the power and influence of worldly conditions. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to ignore worldly conditions. It's not about indifference. It's about equanimity. It's about finding balance. And how do we find balance? As we work with our minds and our hearts. So wise view is the Four Noble Truths, dukkha, the cause of dukkha, the end of dukkha, the path leading to the end of dukkha. And that really includes the purification of our actions, making sure that we're cultivating the wholesome, we're abandoning the unwholesome in everyday life, every day. And having passion about that. Knowing that that's a little bit of a drop in the bucket maybe, but it's affecting the whole. That is a form of radical social action, since the world is the way it is because we're the way we are. The second is in terms of cultivating the wholesome. I suggested before inclining toward that which brings joy. That's not cheating. That's just working with your mind so that it finds a balance. Remember, in our practice, we don't try to change immediately what's going on outside. We try to, at least in our formal practice, we only change the quality of our attention, what allows us to see clearly, and what allows us to see in such a way that our seeing frees us. Our seeing is liberating to our confusion. And the center of that seeing, the center of that adjusting the quality of our attention is a few things. Well, mindfulness is at the center. It is the navigator. It is the enlightenment factor that brings all of the other enlightenment factors into balance. All the qualities of mind that make us able to function well in our life and be free even in the middle of it. And I'll name them right away. I can't do a whole talk on the 7 factors of enlightenment, but mindfulness is the first one. Then there are 3 active qualities or factors. They're called bojjhangas, or factors of enlightenment. The active ones are zeal, or determined effort, or determination. Sometimes it's called virya or virya, which means effort, wise effort. But it has something to do with the quality of passion, quality of determination, the quality of zeal. So that's an activating quality. And the other quality that I've already spoken tonight is to bring whatever it is that's present in, bring it in. It's that quality of investigation of the Dharma. And investigation doesn't mean thinking about. Investigation of the Dharma is a kind of silent, non-cerebral being with observation of the presently arising experience. Remember, mindfulness is the navigator for that kind of investigation, and mindfulness has three primary qualities. It has that quality of being direct or face to face, like whatever you're looking at or feeling, like whoever you're seeing, let the seeing be direct. The second quality is sustained, or it's that, actually the second quality is non-superficial. It means it's intimate. You sink into what's being noticed. And the third is that noticing is sustained. It's not just a glance at I know what's happening right now. It's, what is this like? And then the other part of investigation is, how does this experience that I am noticing right now, what's its nature? How does it behave when I notice it? Does it get bigger? Does it stay the same? Does it vanish? Does it change into something else? This quality of investigation is sometimes what we need. We're just not really paying attention, and not paying attention in a really direct way. And we're paying attention in a very superficial way. So the third of the active qualities, sometimes when we need a little bit more energy, we're just sinking, is joy, is what's called rapture, piti, but happiness, whatever brings you joy. And that's why I was talking about anything that brings you joy will also be, in some ways, somewhat calming. We tend to be a little happier when we're doing something that has a little passion to it. I know many of you who are artists, many of you who get very engaged. I was just speaking to my brother, who's in his mid-70s, suffering a lot right now with an illness, but he works as a photographer for what used to be a family business. It's been not owned by my family since the early 1980s, but he has continued to work in the business as the company photographer, and he spends all day at the computer and he's into it. And he says, what else am I going to do? Many people at that age would just retire, or just want to, he has other reasons why he's not retired, but he is into it. And I read something recently. It was a funny kind of advice, but it's a way that one can put the internet to good use. But it had something to do with seeing what other people are doing with a lot of passion, with a lot of joy. Survey the internet, see what they're doing, and try that thing. There may be something in there that brings you some juice. Of course, I want you to find juice in the Dharma. Zeal, joy, investigation, all those awakening qualities. But you don't have to limit it to your Dharma practice. Find something in your life. And that doesn't mean that you do it to hide away from the difficult challenges that we have in the world. Actually, it's to steady your energy so that you can actually participate when the opportunity is there. So that's the active qualities: joy, investigation, zeal or determined energy or effort. And then there's three passive qualities: calming qualities or tranquilizing qualities. One is tranquility or calm. And that one is, sometimes that's what's needed, is more calm. And we can, in our practice, create the conditions, the concentrated conditions that lead to concentration lead to calm. Abandoning the hindrances is another thing that leads to calm. Knowing that your mind is filled with desire, noticing when it's filled with aversion. I love people recognizing aversion tonight, judgment, aversion. Knowing when your mind is filled with torpor, dullness. Knowing when your mind is filled with doubt. Knowing when your mind is filled with ill will. And then using your knowledge of that to incline toward a well-collected, well-concentrated mind. But even before you experience a well-collected mind with the byproduct of calm, because calm and all of these other enlightenment factors are inherent parts of our nature, I know I've said this before, in a way, we simply need to call on them, to just drop them in, to resolve, to feel calm. Just say, may calm arise at this moment. Say it 3 times, may calm arise at this moment. And I could almost guarantee that if I surveyed this Zoom hall right now, and if you were all actually saying, may calm arise right now, may calm arise right now, that just hearing that word calm will connect with that internal calm that's part of our nature. And after 3 little resolutions, you'll feel a little bit more calm. And if that's what's needed, then call on it. And then, of course, support that with whatever you can do in your life that brings calm. Go sit by the ocean, stretch your body, call the most calming person that you know. We catch it from people who have it. All those things. So there's calm, there's concentration, I've already talked about. And then the concentration is an enlightenment factor. And then the last one is the quality of equanimity. And I don't know another better example of equanimity than the one I call upon my equanimity guru, who's the little duck. So I think I'll end with the little duck. The poem, The Little Duck, from Donald Babcock, from the New Yorker magazine, October 4th, 1947. Now we are ready to look at something pretty special. It's a duck riding the ocean 100 feet beyond the surf. No, it isn't a gull. A gull always has a raucous touch about him. This is some sort of duck. And he cuddles in the swells. He isn't cold, and he's thinking things over. There's a big heaving in the Atlantic, and he's part of it. He looks a bit like a mandarin or the Lord Buddha meditating under the bo tree. But he has hardly enough above the eyes to be a philosopher. He has poise, however, which is what philosophers must have. He can rest while the Atlantic heaves, because he rests in the Atlantic. Probably he doesn't know how large the ocean is, and neither do you, but he realizes it. And what does he do, I ask you? He sits down in it. He reposes in the immediate, as if it were infinity, which it is. That's religion, and the duck has it. He has made himself part of the boundless by easing himself into it, just where it touches him. The people of the Middle Ages were more like this duck than we are. They took life as it presented itself and ran it up in spires of Gothic. They crossed few oceans, but they floated on the sea of time. And a cat is more like this duck than we are. We can radio to the moon and get back a pip for an answer, but a cat can make a hearth rug a haven in the infinite. Or launch 4 kittens into life in a cracker box by the furnace, purring with pride because she has tuned in on cosmic waves. I like the little duck. He doesn't know much, but he has religion. So you can feel this balance of mind that is, maybe it transmits to you as you think of this little duck cuddling in the swells, easing himself into the boundless right where it touches him. But this quality of balance of mind, balance of heart, it lives in us, as us. And we're able to call on it just by dropping in the word equanimity or balance of heart, balance of mind. But it grows inevitably as we practice moment to moment non-reactive awareness. This itself is, each of these moments is a moment that's dropping the seeds of equanimity in our hearts and minds. So may we all incline toward sanity, seeing things as they are, understanding dukkha, cause of dukkha, the end of dukkha, cultivating the enlightenment factors with mindfulness and loving kindness as our navigators. And know that we can be free. And may that be of great benefit to this suffering world. So thanks for listening. I think we're over time, so I just want to thank you in advance for your dana and support. I'm sure the information's been put in the chat about how to offer dana, and please sign up for the half-day retreat. There will be a mailing that goes out for the half-day retreat on April 12th on West Coast time, 9 to 1, West Coast 9 to 1, inclining toward sanity. And mostly we will just test out whether the practice leads to more sanity by sitting together for 4 hours, walking, talking about the Dharma, and just see if that takes root in our heart a little bit more than it is right this moment. Anyway, thanks for being here. Feel free to unmute and say goodnight to each other.
Thank you, Howie. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Howie. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Howie. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Howie. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye, Melinda. Good night, Howie.
Thanks, Howie.
Thank you, Howie G, also for co-hosting.
Thanks, all.
Sure. Of course. Everybody, if you looked at the chat, I listed a link to the event on the 12th. However, it was the wrong link, so look a little further down the chat. The correct one is there. Also, I'm sure we'll get mail out to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Howie G.
Thank you.
Sweet dreams, everyone.
Great
Thanks,
talk.
everyone.
Thank you.
Dreams.
Dreams.
Is this Liberation Day?
Dreams.
Tomorrow.
Every day.
It's April Fool's every day.